What's up, NBA fans? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make the show the best that it can be for the new year. That is 2 weeks in, 2025. That's right. We're going to keep things alive. Now let's get to the NBA, man. And, I got to talk about this, man. I'll try to make this about a 10, 12-minute video. And as I said, I'm going to be learning how to feature more video content, like highlight video content of actual game action, and present more visual theme to, just kind of, modernize what I'm doing here. But let's talk about the Lakers versus Spurs last night. The San Antonio Spurs went into LA, played the Lakers at a crypto arena, and the Lakers were up by what, 8 or 9 points at halftime. Everything was looking good, or so they thought. And then the Spurs opened up the can in the third quarter, man, and then they basically they spurred them right on out the arena, and they defeated the Lakers by the score of 126-102. 126-102 on the night where the legendary Showtime figure Michael Cooper had his jersey number retired. And that was a special moment, man, when you get to see those legendary Showtime Lakers on the court together. Him, Magic, Pat Riley was there, AC Green, Jamal Wilkes, James Worthy, and Norm Nixon was there. Vlade Divac was there in attendance. Byron Scott, that was the that was the one shining moment, But as I keep saying, in my experience, when that young core, the original young core, was traded off or, waived, I've measured the input compared to the output. And every year, outside of that first year when they got Anthony Davis, which they mortgaged the future to get, and you can see the result on the court on a year-by-year basis. You can see it. The output has been greater than the input. And this is why young players were so important. Last night I watched the game between the Houston Rockets and the Memphis Grizzlies. That was a great game, man. Jalen Green, point guard for the two guard for the Houston Rockets. He's coming to his own. And he dropped 42 points last night, facing off against Ja Morant. And Memphis controlled the majority of that game last night, but Houston, they showed their grit and determination, and they closed that game out. And this is what I'm talking about, true player development. You start to see the results. The chemistry is so important because everybody's growing and developing at the same time. But, when you bring this dude to the team, okay, you're going to get rid of all your young talent. You're going to trade for a franchise player, right? Then you bring in a whole bunch of veterans to fill out the rest of the roster. And you think that you cashed in that 1 year, but in all actuality, all that happened was you wind up mortgaging a decade away. So what's happening is when you bring in players, it's not in alignment as to how a real team is built. So, like I said, it's like a dog trying to chase his own tail. You're always going to be trying to catch up to something that was already given away. So, and couple that with the fact that these teams like the Spurs, who have been down for the past four or 5 seasons, but now, after drafting Victor Wembanyama last year and the great rookie season he had, he's in the second year now. You can tell he's starting to mature. And one of the key reasons why San Antonio won last night, was able to come back and take control of that game, is because he limited the number of 3-point shots that he normally takes. He only took like about six 3-point attempts. Well, that allows everybody else to get in rhythm and to execute their offense properly. When you miss a lot of threes and you're a big man, well, the other team is going to rebound a long rebound and get off into a transition. Well, when you play appropriately at the center position, you can play more half-court sets. You can control tempo. That's basically what happened last night. The Spurs outscored the Lakers in the paint by the margin of like 62 points to 40. That means they're controlling the pace of the game. So when you look at the Western Conference, as I've been saying, the gig has been up since the bubble. It's been up since the bubble. Now you got Oklahoma City, who they're on their way to clinch the number 1 seed in the West for the second straight year, barring major injury, which they've been playing without Chet Holmgren since about like week 3, and they still rolling. So imagine once he come back. Okay. Denver is starting to get on the roll. Jokic in his prime. Russell Westbrook, he has rediscovered his game, man. He's playing great, and they've been on the roll. Houston, number 2 seed. Memphis, number 3 seed. Dallas, once they get Luka and Kyrie back, you figure they're going to go on the run. Minnesota, Ant-Man, he had a big game last night against the Wizards, dropping like 41 points and whatnot. Once they work out their dynamic, you figure they're going to make a push. Sacramento Kings, the one they last 7 games. Now they're a game over 500. The Spurs are back at 500. You can see them, after the All-Star break, with Chris Paul on the team, they can make a push to get a play-in this year. And they're going to continue to build a team around Wembanyama. So what I'm saying is, man, last night's game is like a passing of the torch, per se. And then you look at teams like Philadelphia, they're not going to do anything this year. Phoenix is below 500. So all these win-now teams, maybe with the exception of the Clippers, because the Clippers built a roster. They brought in some young players who are good defensive wings, like Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter Jr. They brought back Nicholas Batum, and they're finally featuring Ivica Zubac in their offense, and the Lakers traded him for nothing, man, and he's an all-star level center. He's probably going to make an all-star. Because remember, they don't vote by position no more. They really don't vote by position no more. It's about, the votes are not based on position no more. It's just based on who gets the most votes as far as the starters, and then the coaches select the reserves. So it's a very good chance he's going to be selected as an all-star this year, the way he's playing. He'll definitely be most improved player. So when the Lakers give up a center like that, when he was like 21, 22 years old, well, a traditional base center like Zubac, he's going to start coming to his own around 24, 25 years old, around 24. And now he's beasting. He had 21 points and 20 rebounds last night. That's why I'm so upset about this whole situation. So, as I've been alluding to, the Lakers, the window was closed after that bubble. Just think about this. Think about how you go from the youngest team in the league, and even after you brought in AD, who at the time was 25, I believe he was 25 years old, 26. I would say 26. Okay. They still fielded the oldest roster in the league based on the players who they brought in during their offseason, like the Danny Greens of the world, the Avery Bradleys of the world, players like that. Jared Dudley's, they already generate the oldest team in the league. So therefore, you've already taken your window and saying, okay, we going for it all for 1 year. See, the situation it should let all Laker fans know that after that bubble, that was all she wrote. Then you start seeing Utah rise to the top of the standings. Then Phoenix at the time to the top. Denver was getting going. You know what I'm saying? The Clippers went to the conference finals in 21. Then here comes Memphis. Pelicans, when they were relatively healthy, they was making the playoffs. And then Sacramento cashed in and went to the playoffs. Golden State rebuilt around young talent and won a championship. 3 years after KD, after they won the championship in 2018. So what I'm trying to say is, man, the Houstons were down for about 3-4 years. Boom, second seed. OKC was down for about 3-4 years. Number 1 seed. Memphis, after rebuilding, moving on from it took some time to move on from the Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, Tony Allen, Mike Conley years. Now, boom, here they are. Number 3 seed. Winning games without, John Morant, who's been kind of off injured this year. So what I'm saying is, man, the problem is, man, and also I want to throw this out here real quick. I just found this out this morning. The Hurricane, he has a plus minus this year so far of a negative 146 plus minus ranking, which is the lowest plus minus ranking of any team in the NBA, of any player in the NBA on a team that has a record of 500 or greater. He has the worst plus minus in the league in that situation. And I know this may sound crazy to a lot of fans out there, man, and I get that. The Lakers never needed to bring this man to the franchise. Yes, we had down years. There were circumstances beyond our control that led to that. Kobe injuring his Achilles with, a trade being blocked that set the franchise back 5 years alone. Kobe injured his Achilles. Well, at that point, you knew they wasn't going to be able to sign any significant free agents because you didn't have all that player movement back then. So it was going to create a situation where it was going to lead you to have to start over again. And that's why we start trading players to bring in draft picks to create that depth. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, that young core wasn't getting blown out like this. I can guarantee it. This Laker team right now has to have a point differential around -3. Well, the young core driven Lakers had a point differential that finished up with a point differential of -1.5. They didn't have no superstars on their team. They didn't have no prime franchise players on their team. And they achieved that in the Western Conference. So the output is greater than the input. Even with 2 superstars on this team right now, in terms of structure, in terms of chemistry, dynamic, versatility, I'll take that young core team to compete over 82 games versus the team that's out there right now. I'll take that team right there. Because they're going to compete. They're not going to get blown out. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Plus, they were deeper anyway. And as I did a video yesterday about the fact that the young core Lakers featured a team that had 7 players averaging double figures. Well, last night, nobody came off their bench last night for the Lakers got double figures. The guy who they just traded for, who's basically a spot-up shooter, Dorian Finney-Smith, only had like 4 points. Well, Kuzma and Clarkson was giving you 16 coming off the bench. You see where I'm getting at? It's a trade-off for the decade, man. So that's why I say the gig's been up since the bubble. That's what it comes down to. Fundamentally, that's what it comes down to. And you see that last night. San Antonio is moving up. They're improving, and they're going to continue to improve. And Wembanyama, once he, figures out, his ability. I mean, because he's only 20 years old, maybe 21 years old. So he's just getting started, man. He's just getting started. So, like I said, man, Houston ain't going nowhere. OKC definitely ain't going nowhere. Memphis ain't going nowhere. Dallas gonna be there. Denver's in a prime. They may be able to strike gold again and win another championship. The conference is just too deep with too much young driven teams out there. And it's always someone that's going to spring up that you wouldn't expect. And the Clippers with their defense, I believe they're better than the Lakers. So last night, man, lack of defensive effort. You don't have no big man because your real big man is playing for the Clippers. Anthony Davis been playing out of position. But that's what happens when you trade a center to try to create cap space, to bring in multiple superstars instead of building the team up. We had fundamentally That Laker team in 2018 fundamentally was already the deepest team in the National Basketball Association. If you look at the metric, they was already the deepest team in the National Basketball Association. So, again, last night, San Antonio, they blew the hinges off and beat the Lakers by a score of 126-102. That's a deficit. That's a margin of 24 points. They beat them by 24 points. Because the roster is not congruent. It's not a congruent roster. You got people playing out of position like Hachimura. Hachimura is not a start. First of all, he's not a starter. Number two, he's not a power forward. So now, game in, game out, as these teams are getting stronger, he got to match up against real forwards, man. He's going to struggle. But he'll be the next scapegoat in line to be calling for him to be traded, along with some other guys try to bring another superstar. And I'm telling you, man, after this year, they got to put an end to it. Also, J.J. Redick is not a head coach. He has no coaching experience at this level. You cannot take a guy with no experience at this level and promote him to be head coach over any team. But, oh boy, man, I'm telling you, you just sit here, man, be like tongue in cheek, man. It's like you sit here, man, you just try to apply logic. You look at the situation thoroughly, and all I see is, man, it's just all smoke and mirrors, man. This team is not going to do anything, man. It's not, man. It's just been all talk. That's what the whole experience outside that 1 year, at the expense of them the young core, the best young core in the league, it's just been all smoke and talking smoke and mirrors. That's all this whole venture has been, man. And this is year 7, and they sitting right there, pretty much where they've been since the bubble. On average, they are barely over 500 since all this started. But we supposed to be in good hands, right? Okay. All right. I just want to drop that nugget. Again, this is JB for BTB, Behind the Bench.